President Biden's expected to address an array of topics tomorrow night, including the economy, the Chinese balloon controversy, and, as we mentioned, the debt ceiling. He and new GOP House Speaker Kevin McCarthy are still in a stalemate over the nation's debt limit, but on Tuesday, it'll be McCarthy sitting behind Biden as he speaks to the country. For more, we have former Illinois Congresswoman Cheri Bustos with me here in D.C. and former Michigan Congressman Fred Upton. Good to see you both, and I'll start first with you, Congresswoman Bustos. You know, Democrats appear to be mixed on whether or not President Biden should run for re-election in 2024. So first, do you think he should? And then secondly, what do you anticipate we will hear from him in the State of the Union?
Well, if President Biden makes a decision to run for re-election, I'm all in. We've got a great story to tell. He's got a great story to tell. And frankly, it is up to President Biden and his family to make that decision. And I know we'll be hearing shortly. As far as the State of the Union and the debt ceiling and what we're going to hear, look, I think that, again, President Biden has a great story to tell. We have unemployment that is as low as it's been in the last half century. We have the biggest investment in infrastructure since the Eisenhower administration. We have, I live along the Mississippi River, so we can look at things like the locks and dam system along the Mississippi River, that we have the greatest investment in that since FDR. So all kinds of stories for rural America, for urban America. And I'm very happy to hear what that story is going to be on Tuesday, tomorrow night. And I'm happy to hear what President Biden's going to share with the American public.
And Congressman Upton, this, of course, will be the first time that President Biden will be speaking in front of a Republican-controlled House as president. So what do you think the dynamic will be like in the chamber?
Well, I think it'll be a little bit rough based on what we've seen the last couple of weeks for sure. But, you know, the bottom line is this, and I worked for President Reagan a lot of years ago. He got things done. I mean, people in 1980, Republicans maybe voted, some of them with two hands to cast that vote that was very close when he beat Jimmy Carter. And but 4 years later, because of his track record, getting things done, and he had some big issues back then, whether it be the fall of the wall and inflation, the economy, all of that. But he won 49 states. He won all but Mondale's Minnesota. And I think as Biden looks to probably run in 2 years, he's going to want a track record of getting things done versus one of partisan gridlock where really we just pause for 2 years. We can't afford to allow that to happen, whether it be immigration, whether it be the debt ceiling, all these important Ukraine, all these very important issues. Somehow I think he's got to break the gridlock and really try to get some Republicans to make sure that things are bipartisan if he's going to get some things done.
Yeah, and to that end, especially on the debt limit, as you know, both the Speaker and the President still have some work to do when it comes to the debt ceiling. And I want to turn to some new CBS News polling that we have out, which actually reveals that a majority of those surveyed actually don't want Congress to raise the debt ceiling. But those numbers flip, with 68% saying, yes, it should be raised if it means that the U.S. could default. And so really, I want to put this question to both of you. You know, does this bolster the chances for an agreement between the Speaker and the White House, or make it more difficult? And Congresswoman Bustos, I'll start with you.
Well, there's no choice but to raise the debt ceiling. And I'm guessing in the first question that was asked in the poll, there wasn't an explanation that if the debt ceiling is not raised, we do default. I mean, that's just the reality of it. I think what President Biden is saying to Kevin McCarthy and to House Republicans is what he's not willing to negotiate is for us to cut Social Security, is for the nation to cut Medicare. What he's saying is that there are some non-negotiables as far as tying that to the debt ceiling. But the reality is we have to raise the debt ceiling in order to pay the debts that we already have. And as far as what Kevin McCarthy is saying, that we need to cut spending going forth, well, that's in his control. He is now the Speaker of the House, and cutting future spending is in his control. So if we're going to get real about it, is we have to raise the debt ceiling to pay our debts. And going forth, if Kevin McCarthy wants to cut spending, that is in his control.
And what about you, Congressman Upton? I mean, do you think the Speaker and Republicans writ large are right to insist that spending reforms be tied to any type of increase in the debt ceiling? And do you think that could be resolved in a timely fashion?
Well, I sure hope that it can be resolved, and we're all waiting to see in terms of the one-on-one negotiations exactly what occurs. And I think that'll be a couple weeks, if not maybe even a month or two before we have some resolve. But going back to that poll question, I can remember when, I don't know, it was 10, 12 years ago. I think Cheri might have been there. We've always been friends. I can remember, I think it was a vote on the debt ceiling, and the vote wasn't happening. It was going to go down. And all of a sudden, we had in the cloakroom right off the House floor a TV on. Was it had the stock market ticker on there, and it was all of a sudden the market flipped. It went from 200 points up to 200 down, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, literally that fast. That's what will occur if we don't raise this debt ceiling. I mean, it's from past spending. It's the president, whether it be Trump or now Biden, that they've signed those spending bills that have all passed with some bipartisanship in both the House and the Senate. You can't just come up with a balanced budget that starts June 1st or whatever that debt ceiling date is. You've got to have a gradual approach to get to there, knowing that entitlements today make literally 2/3 of all the spending that's made, interest and entitlements. You can't turn it off just like that. But yeah, I think we'd all like to see some spending reforms that are there. But at the end of the day, we better get an agreement.
And then just very briefly, I know we're talking a lot about politics here in Washington, but I want to turn to politics in your home state of Michigan. As you well know, Senator Debbie Stabenow announced that she is not going to run for re-election next year. So are you considering running for that open seat?
No, not really. Despite my boyish look here, I'm 69 years old, which means I'd be 71, which you got to serve at least 2 terms. I'm not looking to be in the U.S. Senate in my mid-80s. They got enough older folks there that they don't need me. 36 years in the House has been a great run for me, so it's not something that I've really focused on.
Well, anyone you'd like to see on the Republican side get in?
Well, we'll see. We've got our inter-party, we got our state conventions coming up in a couple weeks. For me, I do not want to see a rerun of what we saw this last November when the Republicans got licked fair and square. We don't need to see an encore of that. So I've got some candidates in the back of my pocket. We'll see who decides to pop up.
All right. Well, Congressman Upton and Congresswoman Bustos, a pleasure to have both of you. Thank you for joining us.